Welcome back to the Folklore Hiking Stick Workshop, and yet again another really gloomy day out there. I do have to go down to the woodshed to do some sanding and finishing prep before I can come back in here and start fitting copper tips to some sticks that I have here. And I've just been to various hardware outlets to get some basically stuff so I can get my harvesting rack on top of the car. I did show that in a previous video, but I will take you out and have a very quick look at it again. That's something that will happen this weekend. We started the harvest, but for me to go further afield and conduct a harvest, I need somewhere that I can store the sticks to get them back home or transport them back home, and I'm not allowed to use the inside the car like I did with my old one. So I'll let you have a look at these sticks so you can see what I'm up to here at the moment, and I'll explain what I'm going to do, and then we'll have a quick little look about the stuff that I've bought and what I'm going to do with it in regards to that rack, and then we're going to actually start some crafting. So there you go, you can see the array of sticks I'm working on at the moment. That one over there is claimed and I've got to finish that. These two here, I'll discuss those in a minute, but you would have seen me put some wooden toppers on top of some sticks, which would be these two, to create the hardwood topper, which I could then shape out what I wanted to do on top. Obviously, that wood spirit is a topper that's been put on. This is going to be a Valhalla battle axe model. These four here are going to be my normal generic sticks. I've got one stripped, and three are going to be my, what I classify as my natural bark styled ones. But one of those has already been claimed by a customer, which is going to be a custom order, which is what I've got to do in a moment. So yeah, this is what I'm working on at the moment. And they need the last bit of sanding. They've done the rough sanding and shaping, but what they do need is to go up to like 320 grit and polish out any scratch marks. And then I'll go down to like a 600 grit, very quick polish. But this is what we're going to be working on in a moment. But we'll quickly have a look at this rack system. Yeah, so I quickly had to shoot off to get some hardware. Well, these actual agricultural clamps, they're going to clamp the actual rack to the roof bars. I've got those so I can sand once I grind off the amount of metal that I want from the V sections. That'll be to smooth it all out. I got some bolts to stop the main struts coming out. And I've got some masking tape, but that's for the custom order for me to put a hand grip. But the reason I'm showing this, I lost possibly 2 hours flapping around trying to get all these bits and bobs, no matter how insignificant it looked or looks, getting all this together. I say 2 hours, that didn't include me coming home thinking the job was done, and I realised I then had to go and get chicken food. So perhaps that's not relevant to hiking stick making. Right, it's pretty windy out here, but you can see the V-shaped part of the system that I'm going to use to put the sticks through. But obviously that's almost like a 1.5 meters, so I'm going to take a fair bit of that off, because it's going to be like higher than a double-decker bus if I'm not careful. So that bottom bar will be what clamps onto the roof rack system, and those nuts and bolts will go into this hole here to bolt it together. You can see where I cut it all up with a grinder, but I'll clean all this up, and yeah, I'll be able to transport sticks from the harvest. So that's my roof rack. So it's going to sit on there, going across there, and it'll be clamped onto the roof rack. I'm going to cut out a little notch in the underbar so it sits on firm. But yeah, I'm not to transport sticks in there anymore. Right, and for me, when I do anything regarding sanding or, you know, making a mess, wood shavings and that, it's down in the woodshed. and it means I've got to transport all my tools down there, so I lose 20 minutes just shuffling backwards and forwards. It is a pain, but it stops me contaminating this workshop to the point, you know, it becomes a total mess, because I do use it for every other activity and thing I do. So yeah, I've got to transport all my tools out down there, and we'll start getting sanding and start doing some crafting, actual crafting. It is in the afternoon. Like I said, I had a lot to do this morning regarding domestic chores, kids, sourcing stuff that I want to do to make that rack and everything else. But I'm actually now going to start some proper crafting. Right, those have been sanded to about 320, I think the grit is. So I'm pretty happy with those. I'm going to have to do the tops by hand, but I'll bring the other three down to do as a oneer, do them as a group. But the one I'm going to use is a battle axe handle type one. I've got to go up and shape the handle in the workshop. I will get a Dremel and take that out, and I'll do an inlay there. Pretty much the same as what I did to one of my other sticks. And you can already see I have the battle axe kind of shape like a swan neck to that stick already. So I don't have to do too much work. It's already been shaped out. I'm just going to cut the end, and I'm going to give it its 320 power sand. And yeah, that'll be hand sanded to finish then. Right, I've come up into the workshop and I've got my axe handle next to this stick, and you can see the parallels. It's pretty similar. Bringing you down to the tip, which will be there. So what I've got to do is get a pencil, and I'm going to mark this to try and mimic that over there. I might have just a little bit that I want to hollow out here. The weather really is poor. I'm glad I got a roof over my head because it's just beginning to spit. So that's the reason why I come down here. It's not just dust. I do have some shelter from the rain, so it makes the inconvenience of dragging all my tools down here worthwhile. But this is all I'm going to use, to hand tools, to create the axe handle. I'm just going to cut it, and with the rounded part of this file I'm just going to V out a little bit of the handle to create a little bit of a knock, and then I'm going to power sand this one to the point I'm happy, and then that will be from then on it will be hand sanding. So yeah, let me get this one done, and I want to get all the sanding done before I lose too much light, and then I'll be going into the workshop to fit the copper tips I can pick up and pack up out here. and then I can start looking at this one. Oh, while I'm down here, I don't have a Dremel, but I have a very cheap kind of copy. I think it's a power tool that similar to a Dremel, but it's not. I bought that on the back of the accident I had with my eye. I'm not going to take any more chances, and I thoroughly recommend you get the proper tool for the proper job. Never follow what I did or my lead. Always get the proper tool for the job. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to route that out slightly deeper and cleaner, and that's going to be an epoxy inlay, possibly of the vintage colour scheme I used last time. I'll have to have a look, but yeah, that's going to be an inlay there, and you'll come along and see me how I do that. But from here, let's get this handle created. Right, let's cut this flat bit. Try not to take too much of the end off. Right, I'm pretty much finished down here in the woodshed, and not before time. The light is beginning to fade and it's peeing down with rain, so it's thoroughly unpleasant. We got a northerly wind which is coming in into the front of the woodshed. I'm dry, but that cold wind is quite bitter. Right, so I'm going to pack up all my tools in reverse from when you see me bring it all down, get it back into the workshop. I've then got to go into, you know, do everything I've got to do with the family and for the family. Once they're all getting ready for bed and in bed or heading upstairs, I'll help them do all that, and then I'll probably put a couple hours in the workshop putting the copper tips on, and you can come with me. Why am I putting myself out time wise? It's quite simply that I've got custom orders on top of this batch I'm doing, and I've got to get it done. Christmas is coming, and I'll be shutting the workshop down over Christmas, and possibly 2 weeks after the Christmas period, to allow me to do my West Highland Way hike or trail. So basically I've got to get pretty much all my work done now. I've got a bit of a cold as well, so I'm going to pick up and see you later. Well, another day or another morning, and it's gloomy, wet, miserable with a cold wind. Right, I'm in the workshop, so I'm out of the way of it, and I've only got possibly a couple of hours, and I've got other things to do. I've actually made the stick. I've got to put the copper tip on, and then I've got to do the artwork on this one. This one's priority because it's the carbon copy of the one I got to take back to the shop, and or give theirs back, and this will be given to the customer. Yeah, so I've got to get on with this one. Those there will be done, but they will come after the one I've just described. This one here, or these here, will be done today, copper tipped. Possibly not all the artwork, but they will be ready to do all the artwork. Right, the wood spirit topper, that's all together, and I've got the copper tip. Nothing's finished on it. I'm going to do the artwork right after this one, and I'll just clean this one up, then I'll oil it so these two are drying. So that's my main aim while I'm in the workshop at the moment. He does have like a whitish appearance to it, and that's where I've given it a very light coat of oil, and I've resanded some parts of him. So obviously I've removed the top coat of oil covered wood. So yeah, I've got to get all this one oiled and bring it back up again. Right, first priority is to make this copper tip. So I'll grab a piece of copper. Will that go on? No, I'm going to have to take a bit off that. Is that big enough to make two? Yeah, I don't want to waste that piece. Yeah, this is just the markings on. It is pretty rudimentary, but it's my gauge without having to get measures and that out. Right. I do have a lot of videos regarding making copper tips, which can be sourced through my back catalogue. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing now. I'm making a copper tip. Basically, I'm cutting the copper to size that I want. There. And what I'm going to do is get it attached to the stick. Although, because I've been working all over the place in here, I'm struggling to find every one of my tools. There they are. And I've got a file here. I'm not going to bore you with making the actual copper tip. Like I said, there's hundreds of these videos, or not hundreds, but there's videos of me making copper tips. So I'll bring you back when I'm about to attach it. Right, I'm doing a Highland cow on this particular stick here, and I have an image I'm working from, and I'm now translating that to the actual stick itself, allowing for the curve, and obviously my style and my kind of inherent take on how it's going to be presented on this stick. Yeah, it's challenging. I've got just enough room to get it on the stick, if you can see there. But I've got to put a lot more detail into it, which I'm working on now. And I've got to draw it so I can actually wood burn it with the limited equipment I've got as well. Yeah, there is a multiple of challenges in what I'm doing here, but you know, I enjoy doing this. I'll put the radio on, or I'll put the YouTube podcast, anything, you know, YouTube. I'll listen to debates, you know, on current affairs, and I'll just crack on and wood burn. So I'm going to get this done, and I'll bring you back then. Right, I'm doing a quick just clean up, get any loose bits of sawdust and working material out of the wood spirit, and I'm going to oil both these now, get them drying and out the way. Then I can slow down and move on to my other projects. And I've got a very light brush here so I don't lift fibres back out of the wood. And there's my Highland cow. Work this oil into all those nose, eyes and mouth sockets, so he's fully protected. And gently start bringing it into the actual carving. Right, I had to shoot off and do a few other things, but I got those two sticks completed, as you can see, and I'm back in here for a very short period of time before I have to shoot off again. I'm going to do the epoxy inlay on this occasion in the workshop, and it'll be just to the point where I get it in filling the hole. It won't be the sanding of it, because I will leave it for 24 hours, possibly 2 days before I come back, because it's going to be quite a deep infill. So I know it says on the tin, but with epoxies and resins, I always leave, you know, always well beyond what they say on the tin. That's just me, but yeah, you'll get to see what I do as regards to starting the inlay process here. Right, this is going to be my Battle Axe Valhalla model. It was in the beginning of the video when we were working on it, and you would have seen me with my well, it's not a Dremel, but it's something similar to it, a cheaper version. Route all this out, and it's possibly at its deepest point, possibly about 10 to 15 mil deep. So I've got a lot of volume there to actually fill. So I'm going to start getting prepped and getting ready to do what I want to do with it. The first thing, I'm going to mask off a fair bit of area. Quite simply, you don't know if you're going to get overspill or have an accident. So I'm going to give myself the best chance I don't have to, well, clean up and sand continually the same area. So I'm just using some masking tape, That's gone too far. I've got to get it to bond on the outside wood as well. So all I'm doing here is, like I said, just creating a workable area for myself without making too much mess. So there you go. You can see I've masked it all off, and that will allow for any overspill or any runoff. Right, I got 3 mixing cups ready. I've got the epoxy I'm going to use, and I'll talk about all this after I've done the actual job. And I've got the paints that I'm going to use. I've done the trial and experimentation to find out that this paint actually will work with this epoxy. That's not a given. Varying epoxies and paints may not be compatible. They may produce chemical reactions, heat, obnoxious or poisonous gases. You have to be careful. I do know these will work together for me in my circumstances. But as you can see, I've got a big void, and you can see the colours I'm going to go with, which is orange, and I'm going to make an amber colour. It's kind of like deep blue and a little bit of a olive green colour stripes through it. So I'm going to get ready, and once you start opening the epoxy, because this epoxy here isn't designed as a to do this particular job, I'm constrained by time constraints, and on top of that, it doesn't flow that well. And if you get too many bubbles in it, when you sand through it, you come across bubbles when you sand through. Like I said, I'm working with what I've got. This product isn't really designed for it. It will work. It's an epoxy, but you can get Pacific epoxies that would be better suited to doing inlays and things like this. Right, very small bit of paint, not a lot. Yeah. Right, let's add the epoxy. A little bit more blue, because that's going to be my base colour. Right, let's mix up. And I've got a nice amber colour coming there. Right, doing an inlay is how you do it is totally up to you. It's really a game of imagination and what you want to do with it. You've got complete artistic license. I'm just creating an outer ring with the epoxy. There. With the blue, I'm going to fill the void. There. And when you sand it, it'll all come through. Doing this green now. And I'm going to do kind of like stripes. There. Get a good globule, because I want it to sink down into the other resin as well. Am I happy with that? I think so. I'll leave that go. Right, that may look a little bit of a mess. I've made a bit more of a mess than I normally do. I've cleaned it up off the floor. But you can see I've got a few little air bubbles that's risen to the top. And that's always good that you know the air's coming out. But if you can help it, try not to create air bubbles. Like I said, when you sand down through, you could end up with some voids. Now I've got a torch, and I'm going to try and bring it on the actual... bring it on it for you. Right, you can start to see those colours there. I don't know if that's fully visible yet. As I sand down through, because those colours have intermixed, you will start to get designs. You can see the blue in the centre, but there's green in it as well, if you can see. And I've got the amber on the outside. And they have mixed and fudged together in the core. So as you sand it down smooth, like I said, you'll get various patterns and colours come through. Yeah, but unfortunately, I can't do nothing about that at this moment. You just got to let it dry. Right then guys, that inlay I showed you is how I do it. There's a lot more involved in it. I really ought to make a separate video about how I do it. Obviously you haven't seen me sand it back down through. And I think I'll bring you along on that on another video, just a quick one. As I sand it back down through the grades, you can see how that inlay pops out. But you've seen me how I fill it. It's time consuming, it's messy. And on top of that, it's an extra product involved in making the hiking stick. And obviously that's another extra cost that's got to be added to the stick. But it is definitely worth it if you've got a void that you want to make a feature from. I'm quite into doing the inlays. And like I said, I've done it over multiple sticks for multiple reasons. If knots are falling out, I've used it. If I've got like a blemish like there on this stick, I'll fill it. And if I've got cracks, you can fill it with multiple different colours and they blend together and they create a dramatic effect. The only thing I would say is if you do a very heavy block colour of epoxy in a stick, sometimes that can look like it's just been spray painted there. It's always better if you can make it have varying shades of colours as it goes through whatever you're filling, so it has depth, it has meaning, and you can look at it and you can see it is not paint. And once it's polished up, it'll pop up and it'll look really vibrant, like stained glass to your eyes. But yeah, all I really want to say is thanks for coming along and sticking with this video on just me doing some work within the workshop. Obviously, I will bring you along when this is dry. I'll do another video just as sanding it out so you can gradually see that inlay pop out. But for now, I'm going to draw this video to a close. So take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys on the trail.